Okay, thanks. I'm gonna. What about Mac then? Because the Mac, I was gonna bet on that.
Okay, they're muted.
Yep, we're good.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your patience. We've had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we've got most of our board members online with us, along with staff. And to begin our meeting like we always do, we're going to start with an invocation, and to offer that invocation is President of our board, Andy Field.
All right, pray with me, please. Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day and for our many, many blessings. We ask You, Father, for more guidance and assistance through this awful period of uncertainty with the virus. Be with everyone and their families while they're away, and again, thank You for blessing our school and our community. These things we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I call this meeting of the Burnet Consolidated Independent School District to order. Let the record show a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called and is posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Let me take a quick roll. I don't mind saying I'm kind of confused on who all's here too. We'll just call the roll of board members. Suzanne? Please say yes or no or here or there or whatever. Hello. Did she? I see her, but I can't hear her. Okay. Ross?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Robbie has said that he could not be here tonight. Mark? Is he in yet?
He is not here, but will be with us in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Good deal. Earl's here. Angela?
I'm here.
Angela?
I'm here.
Good deal.
I'm here.
And myself. Okay, we've got a quorum. So at this time, well, I got to first ask Keith if there's anyone signed up for open forum.
No one submitted open forum item.
Good deal. All right. We will be going into executive session under item 5, business items. It's A, is discuss and possible action regarding the approval of the district's emergency operation plan. And I understand Coach Jones is going to give that to us.
And it will also include the report on the school safety audit, Mr. Field.
Yeah, right. Good deal.
Okay.
We good?
Yep.
All right, we're back
Okay.
online.
Awesome. All right, we're back in regular session, and we will have item 5 as business items, which is discussed and possible action regarding the approval of the district's emergency operations plan. Any more discussions, or does Kurt want to say something on that?
Well, just so as part of our safety and security audit, as we mentioned, Burnet CISD must submit a board-approved district emergency operations plan. So the proposed updated district EOP contains the required components that are listed there for you in your board book. Also to give the board an idea of the type of information included in the plan, the contents of the emergency response guide flip charts that have been placed in every classroom throughout the district have been attached there in your book for your information. But the administration recommends approval of the district's emergency operation plan.
Andy, this is Ross. I move for the approval of the district operations plan.
This is Suzanne, second.
All right, thank y'all. Motion been made and seconded to approve the district's emergency operation plan as presented. Are there any more comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Earl. I like to ask. So I'm assuming that meets all of the requirements for an EOP that we're approving right now.
Yes, sir. Even the last minute, those that were sprung on us last minute, we got the continuity of operations plan in there, and then also the communicable disease.
Great job. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for giving us copies of the flip charts. They were very informative, and I appreciate that.
Great.
All right, you ready to vote? I'll go down the roll. Suzanne?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
And Andy's yes. Motion carried. Kurt, good job on that. Really was.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Keith, I think it goes back to you.
Yes, it takes us back to communications and report. And the first item is report on guidance from TEA on reopening schools in the fall. Although a significant portion of that report is not possible. As you know, the Commissioner of Education had slated Tuesday, June 16th as the date in which public health guidance and information about funding for attendance would be issued. And the morning of Tuesday, June 16th, we received a note saying that they would not be sharing that guidance. So later that afternoon during the call, the commissioner emphasized that he would not be sharing that information until tomorrow, Tuesday the 23rd. During the 16th call, though, he did share with us that the guidance would be provided along with how distance learning would be funded in the event that a student maybe chose not to attend school, or during a school closure, we had to offer online instruction. He also indicated that that masks would not be required of students or staff, and that there would be flexibility in the number of students allowed in a classroom. Prior to that, he had been indicating to us that if we wanted to know what the fall was going to look like, make sure that we paid attention to the summer school guidance. And as I've shared with you previously, the summer school guidance indicates that every student is required to have 45 square feet of space and 6 feet of social distancing. Well, a typical classroom then is only going to hold possibly 12 to 13 students and then a teacher. And so according to the commissioner, that guidance is going to have a lot of flexibility. So we're anxiously awaiting for guidance tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock so that we can begin building our plan on what reopening in the fall looks like. I'm not sure if you had a chance to catch it, but the governor did have a press conference today. We listened in because we weren't sure whether or not there would be any guidance related to school. There was not. The governor did share concern statewide that the COVID-19, the number of active cases are increasing and the hospitalization numbers are increasing. And he was encouraging folks to follow the previous guidelines associated with reopening Texas. And the two guidelines he really focused on is staying away from big crowds, wearing a mask, and make sure that you're social distancing. So it will be a little bit interesting because his press conference today focused a lot on wearing a mask. And yet we've been told that tomorrow's conference will have guidance that not to wear a mask, or students will and staff will not be required to wear a mask. In addition to the guidelines that we'll receive from TEA, as you know, the school district put out a COVID-19 stakeholder survey so that we could hear feedback from our staff and our parents about their thoughts related to COVID-19 and reopening in the fall. And so we wanted to share with you the results of that survey because the results from that survey are going to help to inform decisions and actions that we take. So let me share my screen with you. And that window. And it's not presenting.
We could see it.
Oh, you could?
Yeah.
All right, it wasn't showing on my screen. My apologies. How about now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
So we sent out the link to all parents and staff members via email. The survey was open from June 9th through the 17th. There were 779 people responded to the survey overall. Of those, 119 were peer staff members. I say that because we also had 18% that represented staff members that are also parents in the district. But the overwhelming majority of the people that responded to the survey were parents at 67%. So the first question we asked is, overall, how would you rate the district's handling of the entire COVID-19 situation? 88% of all respondents listed excellent or good. 10% saying that they rated it a fair or poor. The next question was, how concerned are you about your personal health and the health of those in your household being impacted by COVID-19? A slight majority at 58% said that they are either very concerned or somewhat concerned, and 41% responded not concerned. I have received 2 emails from parents indicating that they would like to change their responses on the survey based on the uptick that we're seeing in COVID-19 cases in Burnet County. So the next item is, how satisfied are you with the information you've received from the school district about the COVID-19 situation? 96% of all respondents said very satisfied or somewhat satisfied with the information provided. And it's pretty clear from the survey results that people relied on the district emails that we sent out directly to parents and to staff. They also relied heavily on our social media, the district social media presence, and then the district website for information during the COVID-19 school closure. So thinking back to this spring, overall, how did virtual online learning go for your children? You'll note that a majority of folks, but just a slight 42% said that it was very challenging or pretty good and great. And 32% of people responded said that it was challenging. And you'll note that, about a quarter of people said it was so-so. Also, a little bit interesting on this one, we broke out the staff response. And so staff found the online environment slightly more challenging than our parents. So how comfortable are you today with sending your children back to school in the fall? So again, this was the past couple of weeks. 76% of respondents indicated that they were very comfortable or somewhat. Knowing that a large concern of COVID-19 is that children can transmit the disease to others, which is the following is closest to your opinion? And so 56% of people said that schools should reopen as normal, and you'll note that I've included the staff response slightly above each bar. Schools should reopen with significant changes to the lower the risk of transmission. 29% of respondents indicated that, and then 14% selected that schools should just turn virtually and completely online. So this next item, we gave parents 3 choices to respond to on different configurations that a school district might use to reduce the number of students that are in the classroom. The first choice was alternating full days where students attend all day on some days of the week and learn from home on other days of the week. 50% of all respondents were in favor of this model. The next model was breaking the day into 2 shifts, so having a morning group and an afternoon group. And a majority of folks at 54% were opposed to that model. And then using 100% of online environment, 66% of respondents were opposed. If the district did adopt an alternative schedule, we asked how likely would you be able to provide transportation to and from school? Of the 779 that responded, 72% indicated that they would very likely or somewhat likely be able to respond or to be able to provide transportation. Given the fact that 58% of our students are economically disadvantaged, I'm not sure that if we had a higher percentage of folks responding to our survey, that number would not be as high at 72%. So next, we provided respondents an opportunity to rate each of these following mitigating measures and tell us whether they strongly support or strongly oppose. And so the first is keeping children in the same classroom for all of their instruction and lunch. So not having students move classes. Small majority at 57% oppose that measure. The next measure is having hand sanitizer available in every classroom. Strong support for that at 95% in support. The next measure was restricting high-risk activities like sharing equipment, materials, in-person group projects, playgrounds, gym equipment. 53% were in support of that. Alerting parents to new cases of COVID-19 among students or employees in their child's school. That garnered strong support at 92%. closing schools for a full 2 weeks each time a student or employee is tested positive for COVID-19. 57% of respondents opposed that measure. We are very interested in the guidance that we're going to receive from TEA on how do we determine when a classroom or school we have to close. There's guidance currently offered in the summer school guidance, but again, waiting to hear what's going to possibly be offered differently in the fall. Enhanced cleaning protocols for surfaces, door handles, restrooms, that garnered 99% support. I am curious about I think it was one person that marked strongly opposed. So I'm not sure if that was an accident or. And then we asked about requiring students and staff to wear a face mask when they're not at their desk or when they are not spaced out in their classroom. And 60% of respondents opposed that measure. Requiring daily temperature checks as adults and students enter into the campus. 75% indicated support for that measure. And then staggering school schedules so that fewer students are in classrooms and desks can be spaced 6 feet apart. 59% indicated support for that measure. And so then we came back with a similar question that we asked earlier, but with a twist. Now, having learned about some of the measures that a school might take in reopening, if the district were to take the measures that the respondents supported the most, how comfortable are you today with sending your children back to school in the fall? And that number did increase on the very comfortable, somewhat comfortable to 89%. And that's a 12-point increase from the original question 8. We also asked 2 open-ended questions, and I had sent you all of those responses. Just what improvement would you like to see in the virtual online learning? And then what can the district do to make you more comfortable about reopening school? 2 of the themes that I saw clearly on the virtual online learning was increasing the amount of face-to-face time with staff members virtually. And then a challenge that we're well aware of, but access to computer and internet came up over and over. And then in terms of what can the district do to make you comfortable about reopening schools, as you reviewed it, I'm sure you saw the same thing that I did. And that is there's just an opinion on all ends of the spectrum and throughout the entire continuum of some people believe strongly in masks, some people do not believe in masks. And so lots of different opinions shared on that question. It was pretty clear, and these measures will help to inform our plan, but each one of these mitigating measures had a 75% or higher support rate. And so hand sanitizers being available in all classrooms, we are going to, currently almost every classroom has it, but we're in the process of making sure that every space that has a student will have hand sanitizer available, including doorways at which people would enter. We are looking for guidance from TEA about when we would need to notify parents of new COVID-19 cases, but we will have some type of reporting structure. Charlie and his team are definitely, they're in the process of living it, but we're already having discussions about what that enhanced cleaning protocol during the day might look like. And then daily temperature checks, some type of screening before a student gets on a bus, before a student enters into the campus, creating a system that would allow students' temperatures to be checked before they enter the building or before they enter the bus. So as I said, we're looking very much forward to the guidance from the commissioner tomorrow afternoon. That will help us to begin to create a plan. We've been talking about the universe of possibilities, but one of the challenges of talking about the universe of possibilities is when you don't know the rules, it's hard to settle on the exact response. And so with the guidance from TEA, with the guidance from this survey helping to inform our decisions, we look forward to developing a plan as quickly as possible and then sharing that plan with our stakeholders. I recognize the fact that parents are very interested in knowing exactly what the fall is going to look like, and we want to provide them as much information as possible about what that looks like. And to that end, we've already started a list of kind of every area that has to be addressed: the arrival, the dismissal, the changing of classes, what does it look like inside the classroom, lunches, breakfast. And so lots of areas to address. And again, hopefully with guidance tomorrow, we can begin that process of developing a plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have either about the survey or maybe future guidance that we might be getting.
This is Mark. No question, but my apologies for being late. We opened camp at our church today and waiting around till everybody got picked up. But just trying to temperature check 125 kids coming in significantly changes your morning and how long it took us longer than we thought it might.
Right.
So I don't know if you can overbuy the number of thermometers you need, but it will impact the speed with which you can get things going that we saw for sure this morning.
Yep. And so, I mean, I think we're going to have the question from a management standpoint: can we truly? There's a little bit of natural spread out of kids showing up to a campus. Well, I say that, you know, at elementary, there's a little bit of spread, but there's always that big push. And so we can't create a system that causes parents to be sitting in the line for a large amount of time and then be late. And so making decisions about, is it every kid gets screened? Is it, you know, some subset of students that get screened as they walk in, and then maybe at a different place in the building? So great feedback, and yes, a huge challenge. And then when you do have that kid, so I'm one of the people taking the temperature, and then someone does have 100.5, and I've got to stop down and do something with that child, which the plan is hopefully we get them back with their parent before they leave, but not always going to be possible. Or a child that's standing at a bus stop by themselves, and we take their temperature. So yes, lots of challenges associated with that. Other feedback?
Earl, and
Mm-hmm.
so then do you have to document that? That becomes a nightmare too if you're having to document all that. The one person that is 100.5 or whatever, how do you stop and document that and keep everybody waiting? It seems like it's just going to be this long wait, or you got multiple people taking temperature. And then I've seen some instances where it requires a nurse, and that's going to be the protocol you set out there too. So anyway,
Yep.
It's going to be challenging.
Very. And we're starting to, also experience, so the documentation, you're exactly right. The documentation would be about the student that is running the fever. But we're just in our summer mode with some staff members having limited access to students. We're starting to already see reports of staff members that are COVID-19 positive, or they're having close contact with a COVID-19 positive person. And close contact, defined by the CDC, is 15 minutes within 6 feet of someone. And so COVID-19 positive, COVID-19 close contact, both require 14 days of quarantine. And so we're already having to address the challenge of documenting that and doing kind of our own tracing of who were you with, of another staff member, have you had any contacts with a student, and where have you been in a BCISD facility? And just the little bit that we've had to deal with has taken some time to talk through and to manage. And we've all reflected that in the fall, when we have 3,200 kids back and 500 staff members, the likelihood of those two instances, a positive test or someone that's been in close contact, is going to create quite the challenge. And so that is, I mean, there's lots of important guidance we're looking for, but that's probably one of the most important guidance. At what point is the guideline going to continue to be a 14-day quarantine for both of those cases? And at what point do you consider a school closure? And what is the reporting requirement? Is it for every person that has to quarantine? So if someone's just been in close contact, but they've not had a positive test, are we required to report that? And so we don't know. There are so many questions right now that, and it's not just Burnet CISD, it's school districts across the state. No one knows, and everyone wants to have the answers to begin building their plan. If there aren't any other questions, then we will move to item B, and that is financial reports with Mr. Gehring.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We will get started on page 24 in your board packet, and that is the monthly financial report. And I just want to point out there that we have now percent expended. We're at 74.5% of the budget expended, and we should be at 75% at this time is the projection. So as we've talked about the last couple of months, we are noticing the savings from the COVID closure and also just normal into school savings that show up as the budget moves along. So it's a good sign for the current year budget. And that is a good thing because the administration continues to work and keep an eye to the future with so much uncertainty in school funding past this year. It's good to know that we have a good chance of finishing this year in a good spot. On page 26 is the fund balance report. And I just wanted to point out, you'll see the general fund. We have assigned the action that the board took at our last board meeting. So that is now assigned in the general fund portion of fund balance. And then on the bottom, debt service fund balance, just a quick reminder that the next time we all get together will be in late July, and you guys will be proposing a tax rate. And so that debt service fund balance amount is enough to support another defeasance, which we're planning on doing. And depending on where the board adopts that INS rate and propose it in July and then approve it in August, we'll factor into how much additional defeasance, how much more we can pay down on those funds in the future. So we'll be talking with you guys as we lead into that board meeting about the INS rate and where we want to place that with a uncertainty of a future bond and then defeasances ahead. Page 52 is TA provided Q&A document on the CARES Act, the grant, federal grant that was allocated to the school districts. BCISD will be applying for those funds. As you're aware, Keith has shared with you, the funds, these are just supplanting state funds. So the $400,000 that the district will be applying for will just simply be reduced on their state revenue side. So that's what we're going to do on the expenditure side. We're going to find $400,000 of expenditures that would have come out of the general fund and try to make them as clean as possible. So with the audit is easy and the application is easy, and we're going to replace those funds and move them into a different federal account. So where you'll see that effect is come August in that final budget amendment, the actual general fund is going to come in $400,000 less, about $400,000 less than budgeted because we're moving those expenses out of the general fund and into those Federal CARES Act funds. So that's all I have to share on the financials. Anyone have any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
All right, very good. Thanks, Clay. All right, that gets us to our consent agenda. It's kind of lengthy this time around. Information is sent on these items has been sent to the Board of Trustees for review prior to the meeting. Any board member may pull any item from the consent agenda without a second for deliberation prior to consideration. Any item pulled will be considered with the action items on the agenda. Items are board minutes. B is expenditures in excess of $25,000. C, discussion and possible action regarding approval of cybersecurity training certification for local governments. Item D is discussion and possible action regarding the approval of an interlocal agreement with the city of Bertram to provide one school resource officer at Bertram Elementary. Item D is discussion and possible action regarding the approval of interlocal agreement with the city of Burnet to provide 3 school resource officers. And item F is discussion and possible action regarding approval of the purchase of computers. What's your pleasure?
This is Mark. I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
This Earl, I second it.
All right, thank y'all. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll call the roll. Suzanne?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. All right. Send to business items. Item A is discussion and possible action regarding approval of local policy revisions affecting local policy DEA regarding compensation and benefits. Mr. Clay.
Yes, sir. So local policy DEA is where policy addresses compensation and benefits. And the very last section in that local policy talks about pay during a closure. And so as you recall and are fully aware, during this last closure, all staff were paid, all Burnet CISD staff. Hourly staff that were required to work were paid premium pay. And that premium pay was basically the half and a half for overtime. So they were paid their regular time. If they had to work premium pay, we added that half to where it was like they were working in overtime. That policy was really written with like a weather emergency or a natural disaster in mind, where they are trying to make sure all employees are treated equally. So the maintenance guys who have to go out in the rain and, try to keep the hallways from flooding, they should be compensated for having to work when other employees are not required to work but are still being paid. We then in an event like a pandemic, which we just currently living through, where professional staff are working. So everyone was required to work. That inequity is not there. So it would be fair for hourly staff members to work as long as everybody is required to work at the same level. So we visited with our school attorney, and they drafted a language to change that policy. And that policy was approved by TASB Policy Services. And basically they added two lines to the policy. The first one was when it's talking about a closure, they say when other employees are not required to work. So premium pay will be paid to hourly employees when other employees are not required to work. So we do have a rain day and the school closes. Charlie's guys who come up, or our transportation folks who are out checking the roads, would qualify for premium pay at that time. The other line that was added to the end of the policy is the board may limit the amount of time that premium pay is issued to employees depending on the length of the emergency closing or reduced operation. So basically that is what allows the board the authority to kind of judge on an individual basis when this closure is happening. Is everyone able to work? If that's the case, we're only going to pay premium pay that first week when you're getting lined up, or it could be premium pay not at all because we know what's going on. So when there is a closure, the administration would come to the board and you guys would have the option to kind of say if this closure would qualify for the premium pay based on if everyone's able to work at that time. It really is, the policy is there to ensure all employees are treated equally when it comes to compensation during a closure. And we think we did a great job of it during this past closure, but we think it could be tweaked to be a better fit. The only other thing I'd like to add is that the administration did proactively send out the information about this policy change to hourly employees. And all we got back was positive feedback, 2 or 3 folks saying, hey, I wanted to work. I appreciate y'all thinking about us, giving us the opportunity to work the next time a closure comes. So just so y'all know, I didn't mention it earlier. In the prior closure, we tried to limit the amount of hourly workers that had to work just to watch the budget and control the bottom line. So that is it on policy DEA. Any questions or comments?
I will tell you that we're super glad that Clay is so on top of it and can do math, because there was a district in the state of Texas that misread that policy and paid all of their hourly folks 2.5 times their salary, and then had to send out an email asking them to give it back. And so we're so glad that our payroll and business office is on top of things.
All right, need a motion.
Suzanne was muted.
I move for the approval of local policy DEA as presented.
This is Angela, second.
All right, thank you. Motion been made and seconded to approve the local policy revisions affecting local policy DEA regarding compensation and benefits as presented. Any more comments or questions on it? If none, Suzanne, how you vote?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
And Angela?
Yes.
And myself. Motion carried. Good deal. All right, that gets us to discussion and possible action regarding approval of 2020-2021 Student Code of Conduct. Dr. Jones.
All right. So you have in your packet, beginning on page 110, description of the 2020-2021 Student Code of Conduct. As a reminder, in 1920, there were significant changes to the Code of Conduct following the legislature changing some statute. However, we are not in a legislative year right now. And so the Student Code of Conduct for next year, as proposed, would have no changes from the 1920 Student Code of Conduct. Our campus administrators have reviewed this as a draft, and we believe that it will carry us. I was pleasantly surprised that the language will carry us even with students misbehaving in a virtual online class. It can cover that too. So I was glad to know that language was broad enough to cover us even if we had to do some distance learning again. I'll take any questions if you have them.
My only comment is when you said 1920, I thought you literally meant 1920, not 19/20. I was like, what? No changes? There's no way.
I'll bet the Code of Conduct was a little different back then.
Like, oh, yeah. I move to approve the 2021 Student Code of Conduct as recommended.
Ms. Ross, a second.
All right, thank you. Motion been made and seconded to approve the 2020-2021 Student Code of Conduct as presented by Dr. Jones. Any more comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll ask Suzanne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Okay, motion carried. Gets us down to item C is discussion and possible action regarding approval of optional flexible school day program at Quest High School for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Collins.
All right, beginning on page 160 of your packet are the items related to optional flexible school day program. This is a program that you're familiar with. It's been operating at Quest High School for some time now, and each year we reapply to the state for that program to be available to students. This allows at-risk students, students who meet the state's definition of at-risk, to be able to attend on a flexible schedule for at least 4 days a week, rather than the traditional full-length school day 5 days a week, so that they can take care of some of the individual family and employment needs that they might have. In the past, this was accompanied by a public hearing. However, that requirement was removed. And so that is one change from the past. But other than that, the application is virtually identical to past years. And there are no additional requirements that we have to meet to apply for the status. Any questions?
This is Angela. I make the motion for the approval of the optional flexible school day program at Quest High School for the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
This Mark, second.
All right, thank you. Motion been made and seconded to approve the optional flexible school day program at Quest High School for 2020-2021 school years. Any comments or questions? Clarification? If not, Suzanne?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes, sir.
Mark?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Motion carried. All right, item D is discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the 2019-2020 waiver for required early notice of students at risk of failure due to 2020-2021 appraisal calendar. Did I do the wrong one?
Yes.
I'm sorry, guys.
Just the last two words.
But I was looking through dirty glasses, I guess. I'm sorry. Anyway, it's item D is what we're talking about.
This one is, I tried to simplify the wording. It was so hard. So
Well, it was getting
it got me too whenever I was writing it. So this is one of those dominoes that falls when something like COVID happens. It's a state requirement that families be notified prior to the year that the state's SSI, Student Success Initiative years fall. And those are the years in grades 5 and 8 where if the student doesn't pass reading and math STAR assessments, then they cannot be promoted to the next grade level. Well, the state requires that you notify parents that their student is at risk the next year of falling into that SSI bottleneck. And so that would involve using the 4th grade to predict 5th grade and the 7th grade to predict 8th grade. Well, we didn't have STAR assessments this year. And so the state offered a waiver to districts that rather than being required to use student data that we had from mid-year in the 4th and 7th grades, we can wait until students return in the fall and we have a little bit more current diagnostic data, and then inform families at that time that their student could be at risk of retention due to SSI requirements. And so this is a timing waiver. It doesn't remove the requirement to notify completely. Any questions?
I'll tackle it. I move the approval of the application for a 2019-2020 waiver for a required early notice of students at risk of failure.
Second.
I'm tempted just to say what you said. Thank you for the motion. Motion to approve the 2019-2020 waiver for required early notice of student at risk of failure due to the 2020-2021 state assessment as presented. Any comments or questions?
I'd just share what I shared with Andy. You know, this is one of those situations where we really have no choice. I mean, there's no data to use, and so it has to be that way. It just seems ridiculous that the state then makes us fill out a piece of paper, have a board agenda item to approve something that they want us to do. Why don't they just kind of do it for us and say, done? And say everyone is done. But anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Suzanne?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes, sir.
Mark?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
And myself. Motion carried. Good deal. Thank y'all. Okay, I'm on the right line now. Item E is discussion and possible action regarding approval of the 2020-2021 appraisal calendar. Ms. Gilmore?
Okay, this is Michelle. On page 176 of your board book, you will have information regarding the 2021 appraisal calendar. Each year, the school board has to appraise or approve the T-test appraisal calendar for teachers. And so this is no different than what we've done in the past. Regarding the dates are there for you to approve. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
None. Okay.
This is Angela. I make the motion for the approval of the 2020-2021 appraisal calendar as presented.
Mark, second.
All right, thank y'all. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the 2020-2021 appraisal calendar as presented. Any more comments or questions on it? If none, Suzanne, I mean.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
and Angela,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Opposed, passed. Motion carried. Whew. Item F is personnel, and do we have, let's see, approval of employment of professional personnel? Hello.
It's
Michelle?
just a report on all of the professional hiring that we have been hiring over this past month. So attached, you'll find there are 11 professionals that have been hired. And then their resumes are also attached.
Gotcha. Okay. Report on professional hiring. That was yours. What am I? Okay.
And we're repeating communications and reports.
Yeah.
On the discussion of future meetings.
Yes. That's it, right? Yeah.
Yes, and that'll be it. So that's me. And I just wanted to kind of map out the next handful of meetings and try to make sure that you are available, especially on two specific dates. But our next meeting will be July 27th at the end of July. We are going to target that as our first in-person meeting. And so Andy is in the board conference room, and he had a chance to walk over and look at a setup that we have right now that would allow for social distancing while the board meets in person. One of the questions I wanted to ask is, our meetings have always been at 6:30. Would there be any interest in moving our meetings to 6 o'clock on board meeting nights? Or if not, we're happy to keep them at 6:30, but
I'd say I'm good with it. These folks that have a paying job may be different.
I like to.
This is Angela. It's fine with me.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Works
I'm
for me.
good with it too.
Works
Okay.
for me.
Would that be just for the summer, or is that like all
Well, I
the
mean,
time, or?
we'd be recommending that then in-person meetings would start at 6,
Okay.
kind of a go-forward basis.
Do we still
I'm all
have,
in favor.
What's that, Suzanne?
do we still have dinner?
Absolutely. Although your dinner selection in a COVID world might be slightly different. But we'll work our way up to that. I think the first meal will be a boxed meal for that night. That then, in the board notes, I had also written you about suggesting an August 3rd team building session. Now, I have to admit, I've offered that, and I've not secured a facilitator yet, for sure, but I am in discussions. But team building is one where, in order for all of us to get credit, all of us have to be there. So we can't even have one person out that day. So if any of you have any conflict with August 3rd, either let me know now or let me know this week, and I will move to another date to work on trying to get a facilitator. That is something that can take place even a little bit later in the school year if we wanted to. Typically, though, because we review our board operating procedures and we typically review the district goals, it's good to have it at least somewhat front-loaded. We've just always done it that way. A lot of school districts do it, in the late of the school year, April, May, June. So keep that in the back of your mind and let me know if that would be available to meet. And then as a reminder, August 10th, I'd shared this date with you. We have it listed tentatively as a possible meeting only if there are any revisions needed to the bond program. So currently, as you know, the 2020 bond program was automatically moved to November 3rd when the governor took his action and we approved the order to move, to cancel the May election and move it to November 3rd. So it's currently called as is. I have been in discussions with Claycomo architects, and we've had the discussion that we're going to get together in mid-July and review the construction kind of environment and what the economy is indicating of, do we have enough money? Do we need to include additional money for inflation? Unfortunately, he bid a couple of jobs just recently, and they actually came in very competitive. And so he said, right now is the time that we would love to be doing it because the market, everyone's a little hungry. And I said, stop rubbing it in. That's why we wanted it to be approved in May. And then August 31st will be our August regular board meeting. As you know, it is late in August, and that is always by design so that we can wrap up the financial year. And if there's any need for a cleanup on an adjustment, a budget amendment, we can do it all in one fell swoop on August 31st. The budget hearing will be, we'll have to talk about that. It probably will be at 6 o'clock. And then the regular meeting would be 6:15 if we follow this new pattern of starting meetings at 6. And then I have penciled in right now September 8th as superintendent summative evaluation. We missed a formative evaluation here in the spring due to COVID-19, and Andy and I talked about that, didn't want to have that without us being in the same room. And so what Andy and I discussed was just skipping past the formative and moving directly to the summative evaluation on September 8th. So again, more for information, but the feedback I would want is August 3rd on that team building, if anyone's not able to make that. And then September 8th, it's also good to have everyone in the room for my summative evaluation. And with that,
Keith,
yes.
you were going to mention about the board financial assurance.
Yes, I was. Would you remind me what I was going to mention?
So we normally were going to do it in late spring, and
Yes.
then it got postponed, and then we were just wanted feedback from the board on.
Yes, thank you. We thought we were going to try and fit it in here in the summer, and I guess we were wondering if there is a comfort level in just starting over. So we had one round of financial assurance where selected board members chose 10 transactions per category. And so we had one of those meetings over the 2019-20 budget. We had intended to have two. And so with COVID-19 and not being able to meet in person, we were wondering if we wanted to just call 19-20 complete with the one financial assurance and then begin fresh with 2021 and have as our goal to fit in two financial assurance meetings. And as a reminder too, Mark Kincaid was our member, right?
Correct.
I wasn't the only one.
Well, no, Andy and Earl are permanent members, and then we have one rotating board member. So Mark sat in on the first time, and so we would be looking for another board member besides Andy and Earl to fill that slot. We spent about 2 hours together going over those different transactions. So thank you for reminding me about that, Clay.
And that was a pretty revealing session too. I enjoyed it, seeing all the background stuff.
And we're committed. If we had to, we could do it online. As the people that sat through, a majority of the documents we showed were through Skyward. And so we would be able to do it online if we absolutely were required to in the fall.
Okay.
Earl, yeah, I don't mind. I think. Oh, sorry, Andy.
Well, I was just going to say I'd prefer face to face, but whatever they require.
Yeah, I thought it was very informative, and definitely y'all put it together. That's a lot of work that you do, and I don't mind putting it off. I think this is something over and above that y'all are doing, so I really appreciate that on it, because you don't have to be doing that, and you're doing that. So I don't mind us doing just two and next year or whatever it ends up being.
This is Mark.
I appreciate that feedback, and we will, based on that, keep to get something scheduled maybe a little earlier in the fall, so it's not such a longer gap. So mid or something like that.
Because we found it as beneficial on the administrative side, just walking through and explaining our work. And I mean, we uncovered a couple of things that we could do differently that made all of our lives easier. So
Right.
it's a great process to put fresh eyes on it. And with that concludes any administrative reports or recommendations.
Well, y'all be safe and have a great summer, best you can. I see somebody went to the coast though, looked like, I don't know. No, it wasn't the coast. It was over at Garmin Falls. Yeah.
I did. Well, I went to Gorman Falls a few weeks ago with my family. And then we went to Corpus this past weekend. Just a couple of days to get away, did some kayaking and hanging out on the beach. It was great.
Good for you. Good for you. And of course, camp's going on. Where Angela's still there. I don't see her.
Oh, I'm still here.
Okay. Good luck with all that.
And
Thank you, sir.
We will, as much information as they provide us tomorrow in written format, we'll forward that to you so you have a chance to debrief along with us. So we've got a meeting scheduled for Wednesday. It's at the end of the day, the phone call, and they said to expect it to run long. And then we already have a meeting first thing scheduled of the administrative team on Wednesday morning to begin debriefing and start planning. So,
Awesome. Good deal.
all right. Well, everyone have a great evening. Thank
Yeah,
y'all so much.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Y'all have a good evening.